party while our leaders play. They say, oh.
Good evening and welcome to this evening's edition of Plain Talk. My name is Christopher and thank you very much for joining me. 1 week ago, June the 13th, marked the 37th anniversary of the death of Dr. Walter Rodney. We all recall, belatedly, a commission of inquiry was held into his death and a report submitted by an eminent panel of jurists from the Caribbean. The recommendations, the findings and the recommendations are still a matter of public discussion. We would deal with that in this program this evening, but June the 13th this year also had another significance when Dr. Rupert Rupnerine, co-leader of the Working People's Alliance and a close colleague of Dr. Walter Rodney, was reassigned from his position as a senior minister of education in the APNU-AFC coalition government to a modest position in the ministry of the presidency. We have two doctors to discuss these two issues with us this evening. Dr. Henry Jeffery, himself a former minister, I think Minister of Education as well, and Dr. David Hinds, prominent commentator and leading member and voice of the Working People's Alliance. Welcome to Plain Talk.
Thank you, Chris, for having us.
I mentioned as the first issue the Commission of Inquiry into Walter Rodney's death. Now, before we go there, what is the significance of Dr. Walter Rodney in contemporary Guyana politics?
Jeffrey, you go. No.
You're a WP.
Objective voice, of course.
Objective voice. Well, you know, from where I'm standing, Dr. Walter Rodney represents an effort to democratize our society in the sense that he was confronting a regime that was clearly authoritarian, and he was doing so, from where I'm standing, in the interest of working people. I believe that his significance is that he tried, again, from what I've read of him, to remove, if I would say so, the racial, the racial connotations then of our politics, if you want to put it like that. Whether or not he would have been successful is another story, but the regime took him on, and it led to his demise. I think that alone, for an academic who could have stayed in it, because he's an extremely clever individual who could have stayed in a university, and lived relatively comfortable. He was a public intellectual and an activist that tried very much to help not only Guyanese, but to help working people in any country he either lived in or visited. Now, you got to give a bit of credit to anybody for that sort of a thing and that sort of effort. So that is essentially what Walter Rodney means to me.
David,
Yeah,
you were a young man when Rodney was leading.
yes, yeah, I
The-
was a
the-
teenager when I joined the Rodney movement, and Henry's analysis, I think, is on spot. And you ask what Rodney means to contemporary Guyana, and you know, Guyana is this post-plantation society, new society, you know, coming out of colonialism just a few decades ago, and so therefore looking, always searching for ways to stay alive and to stay relevant in a world, the Calypsonian David Rogers say, in a world that don't need islands no more. I mean, you know, and Rodney is a product of that search for survival in Guyana and the Caribbean, and he came at it from two interrelated standpoints, as Henry said. From the standpoint of the organic academic, that is, the son of the working class, coming, his parents are poor people, using education as a means of inspiring other people and inspiring the society. And remember, these societies have always looked to education as a means of liberation, as a means of survival. And so Rodney comes out of that, and is very significant because he's not just speaking to Guyana. He's speaking to the Caribbean, he's speaking to the world. If you're a product from a little place like Guyana, and you get to speak to the rest of the world as well, that's extremely significant, because it does not only speak about Rodney, but speak about what societies like ours can produce. And of course, his political activism. He was of that generation where the scholar was almost automatically drawn into a kind of political activism. Unfortunately, the nature of our politics at that time, as we were searching, we were just independent, and we're searching what type of society, what type of governance, how do we deal with internal dissent. And Rodney's activism is caught up in all of that, and he's assassinated. Now, almost 40 years later, I think it's high time that our society look back at those days and try to make a dispassionate assessment, look at where we have gone wrong, so that we don't repeat those mistakes. That's what I think Rodney's significant for, because he reminds us of both hope for us, but he also reminds us of the pitfalls that we got into in those early years.
I find it interesting, both of you mentioned Rodney in the present tense. That I find very interesting. His party is now in government. What influence is Rodney and his ideas bringing to the government and to contemporary politics?
Go ahead. No, I was about to say, you're raising a question that is in the news right now. I mean, that question has to be answered. I mean, what influence his party has in the government? Because his party has to have influence in the government, it has to have space in the government in order to try to push his ideas.
But by definition, if you're a member of a coalition, you're part of the government, is it?
Yes, but I mean, as experience has shown, with coalition governments, they're very difficult to handle, and you have to have a creativity, you have to have consensus, you have to constantly be searching for ways and means to make the thing work. All right. I read somewhere that the whole notion of the executive presidency as it's constituted is really at cross purposes with the notion of coalitions, and I have to completely agree with that, because here we are saying that, you know, here is a president who, according to the Constitution, determines who sits where and who doesn't sit where, and so forth. And then you have parties of the coalition who are saying, but, you know, we should be consulted, you know, and so there is a contradiction there that has to be worked out. The answer to your question is that I don't think that the Rodney's party has the space, and it has said so this past week, it has the space to really push for Rodney's ideas in the government. I mean, clear, let's take an example, simple example, social cohesion, which is really multi-ethnicity. And Henry has said that, I have said that. That's what it is. It's about how do we pull the ethnic group and deal with the ethnic problems, and we call it social cohesion. No, Rodney has a body of academic work, but also a body of activism and activist commentary and ideas on to deal with that. And not one sentence was incorporated in that. I mean, Henry took issue with the literary review and so on. And here we have someone who literally could have written the manual for that, not being thing. And I don't think that's accidental. I think it has to do with the fact that Rodney has been narrowed to this politician who opposed a particular government that looked like him and brought that government down and put another government in, and so therefore he is not really pitched in this way that we've been trying to talk about him.
Henry, do you accept that?
Yes, most of it. I would say, though, from the constitutional standpoint, that yes, there's an executive president. I have no problem with that. But an executive president still has to go to the parliament and gets a vote for his budget.
Yeah.
You only have one seat.
Absolutely.
You are in there, maybe in two, three, and therefore the executive president will have to respect you if he knows that you are prepared to use that one seat to get, so that he can get the budget. Look what's happening to Miss May in Britain.
Absolutely, Theresa May. I've been thinking.
Exactly. So effectively, it's not the executive presidency is the problem, it's the willingness.
That's my view.
Is the willingness of your party or any of the other parties. This is only one.
Any one person.
Any one person should say, we are not going to give you a budget unless you act in a given way. No, that's easily said. I understand.
But why is that?
Oh, what do you mean why? There are lots sort of historical and all sort of things. If you do that, what happens? If you do that, the likelihood is another election. The likelihood, if you
but isn't that likely to impact the other person to say, wait, these guys are serious. They're not going to take me railroading them into my agenda.
Suppose the other person has to call your bluff.
But it's not a bluff.
Bring down the government. Suppose the other person say, all right, go there, don't give us a budget and bring down the government. Where does that leave everybody? Because you are coming out of a PPP government that even their constituency don't want to see back again. I mean, I am trying to do
Is that the reality of the situation?
Yeah, but that's got to be
just
the reality.
To keep the PPP out?
No, that is not sufficient, not just to, but that's
mainly.
But important enough.
Important. So, I mean, you can't just expect them. I mean, and I don't expect them to just try to disturb things. But certainly, they have to exhibit the potential to do so. And I don't think they were doing that. I don't think any one of them in the coalition been doing that. Saying to that
is there a coalition?
But the WPA is in the coalition.
No, I'm asking David.
The WPA is in the coalition.
You in the coalition. So what I'm saying to you, you have to exhibit this and let them know that at any point of time, I mean, these are difficult issues that, we talk about them in sort of abstract ways, but they can't be spoken of like that. And the result is, yes, I understand where they are. They're in hard places, but it's not there. From that standpoint, and my thing would be, it's not the executive president, it's the willingness of you to challenge his authority if he does not come to heel with some of the things you want. If you don't do that, you won't think. They used to say the same thing about the Civic, but the Civic was not a party. Now we have the new Civics. Now they're a party.
Are you suggesting The WPA is now the new Civic.
Not the WPA, the entire lot. I mean, they are operating in a way. The Civic was never a party. The Civic never had a particular organization. When you try to do that, the PPP always closed it off. But the point is, now you have people with organization who claim to represent groups. I hear David talking to them about our members and our members and our members and so on. So they have members.
I'm sure he had his data to support that proposition.
Don't let me don't go there. But the point is that they have members. I mean, how many? It doesn't matter because they bring us they bring a kind of environment to the coalition that they would not have had.
Are they using it?
But I'm saying, obviously not. The coalition just run roughshod and do what they want until they start making some serious noises. And now, let's see what would come out. They're supposed to have some meeting somewhere down the road. Well, let's see how they will deal with that. Go on.
David, you partly inside, partly outside, both in the political sphere and the country sphere. Do you think your party is doing what it ought to do in promoting the Rodney principle, in standing up for what is right, not only for a coalition but for the country?
The party has always tried to do that. The party has tried to do that in ways that are possible. But I'll answer your question this way. One cannot behave as if reality doesn't exist. We live in a real society, and there are deep concerns in this society. No political party who belongs to the coalition would be spared if they were to bring that coalition down. I can tell you that.
But,
right?
but is that the only...
But let me finish. Let me finish. That same constituency that's going to be mad at you for bringing down the coalition, that same constituency stopping you on the road and say, but you all have to do better, and you all are the voice to push them and to make them do better. So what I'm saying is the situation is much complex. Now, for 2 years, right, the WPA held its peace, while all the rest of the coalition running roughshod over us. And the reason we did that is because there is the perception among a lot of people that, parties like the WPA are only there to oppose and that kind of stuff. And so we wanted to give the government the benefit of the doubt. We spent 2 years working behind the scenes, trying to democratize the process, trying to make the process more meaningful and so forth, and we were not successful. And so the Roopnarine thing really pushed us to this point where we've now come out into the open and we are ready to assert, and we are confident that we gave them the benefit of the doubt. 2 years is a long enough time. Nobody can say that, after 2 months you're all ready to break the thing up and ready to question this and question that. 2 years has been a long time, and we're saying that we cannot continue like this.
But listen, there are several other things that have taken place. I mean, we've never had, and the PPP is as bad about this as this government, a Human Rights Commission. That's a fundamental problem for us in this country. We don't have a local government commission. We had, under Dr. Roopnarine's management and leadership of the Ministry of Education, VAT introduced on education. I doubt, and I wonder if you would say, whether that is consistent with Rodney thinking, WPA thinking, and whether it is not that, okay, you only react now because one of your leaders has been sidelined, has been demoted.
No, Dr. Roopnarine said that he's against VAT.
No, but he did nothing.
Well, it's a collective decision, but he says it's VAT.
No, but Chris, you are using this thing about Rodney. What do you think Rodney would have done? Let me ask you clearly.
I don't know.
You don't know. And you seem to be implying that they are not doing what Rodney would have done.
No, I'm asking the question.
Well, no, you weren't. You were implying that Rodney would have been doing something else.
David, you've recruited Henry.
No, David recruit me.
No, but forget the VAT in education.
Yeah.
You've been silent for 2 years.
Okay.
Your co-leader has now been replaced, put into another place. And now you make noise.
No, but that's the occasion, no? Chris, I think...
Cause us belly
No. If we had gone 5 years with saying nothing, then you would have been in order, right? You can't if you're part of a coalition. In the same way you don't expect others to impose themselves on you, you also have to be very careful that you don't impose yourself on others. It's a give and take, right? And we have been giving for the last 2 years. And we've said that we have not seen anything in return. So it is not that we are now reacting because our co-leader was removed. That was the occasion. What Burnham used to say. He had a... yes, right. So it's not...
Not the cause of the war with the occasion.
Right, and that is why we are saying we are not there to fight to reinstate Dr. Rupnarayan to education and all of that thing. We are using the occasion to draw to the attention of the nation that this government, which half of you voted for, is not behaving in a democratic manner as far as its internal workings are concerned.
Yeah, and I think that my concern is not so much either that the president has that right to move, and he should consult.
In a coalition, that's what you would expect.
He should consult, but they come out and say, hey, we never gave this to any WPA. This is not WPA's thing, so to speak. So why we consulting about for the most part? My concern was that couldn't they, sometimes I wonder about this government. Couldn't they think of another time to do this?
June the 30th.
You know what I mean?
Is it insensitivity or they didn't think about it? But in any case, David, it has now come out that your party chairman, Desmond Trotman, had been consulted the day before.
No. He was called. We were called and said the president wants to meet with you. We didn't know what the meeting was. This is at midday, 11 o'clock on Monday.
The 12th?
Yes, on the 12th. Dr. Rupnarayan was met earlier in the same day. All right? and Mr. Trotman went to the meeting and he's told this is the decision that would be announced on the 15th. All right? And then it was announced on the 13th. All right, and it's insensitivity. Even if you didn't remember that June 13 had to do with Rodney and the WPA, you're insensitive. If you remember, you decide you're gonna do, it's still insensitive.
And your colleagues should have pointed this out to them when they decide when to do the change. Even all right, the people saying the president is a historian, he should have known. But people don't. It's easy. Plenty dates historian they have in their mind. But all I'm saying to you is that the police themselves should have said, Chief, does that make sense? No.
Or the party chairman.
The party chairman was just given a message to bring back to the party.
Right, but I mean...
he was told that this decision will be announced on June the 15th, and he told the president, I have to go back to my party and report to them.
No, but I think certainly Rupert, who knows, would have, and then again, you can't even say that. Because when people call you and tell you and have these kinds of discussions, people have not been there, they think that it's just like, mechanical. It's not mechanical. But effectively, I think when he sat down and thought of it, should have remembered and said, this is not a time for this coalition to do that. Right? I have no problem with being moved, but around the 13th and Rodney thing, Chief, I tell you, I'm calling you back to tell you, can just register on me. That is a bad time. Let me go a month time or something, and let's get over this period. Because that comes over to WPA sympathizers. That what's happening here. And anyway, the PPP is waxing with it.
That's what politics is all about.
Right, yeah.
Now, you raised this issue about whether it was partly the president or whether it's a WPA nominee.
Yeah.
Columnist Freddie Kissoon has taken on the WPA for hypocrisy, because on a similar situation where Dr. Jagan in 1992 offered Clive Thomas a ministerial position, it was rejected. It said, come through the party. On this occasion, President Granger does what would appear to be the identical thing, and the WPA was silent.
No, please. Let me understand clearly here. Dr. Jagan says to Clive Thomas, let me tell my reading of it. I might be wrong. Dr. Jagan says, offer something to Clive Thomas, and that was taken to the party.
Yes.
Right? It was taken. But this thing about Rwanda was never taken. You see, this is two different stories.
No, but but hold on.
No.
The WPA would have known that it wasn't taken anyway. They would have known that, look,
Yes,
there was no consultation
yeah,
with the party.
Yes, yes. And you can't move historical junctures like that. The WPA was a different thing in 92.
than it
The
is now.
WPA had its own party, maybe had one of the most effective small elections with a little candle.
You're not
burning
deeming
and all
them
of that.
ineffective now.
No. Well, they are not what they were in 92.
92. I mean,
No, but
it's
hard to move historical junctures.
No, it's not removing. It's drawing obvious parallels.
Yeah, but because you're
And you're
drawing
not going to
parallels, of
underestimate
course.
someone of the
No.
stature of David Hinds.
No, but Chris,
You're drawing parallels across
look,
historical boundaries. It's hard. I mean, you can't do
Chris,
it.
you won 2050 when.
So you reject Freddie Kissoon's
No.
proposition.
Freddie has made this
Not
point.
totally, yeah.
Freddie has made this point, and there is something to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you win. Cast your mind back to 2015. And what was the state of this country, especially supporters of the government on that street? That would have been the wrong time to raise that issue and so forth. Right? So what I'm saying, there's
Even
circumstances.
privately, it would have been a wrong time to do it.
But that's precisely our point now. That we wanted to raise that for 2 years. And we were not allowed any space inside, any forum inside. That's the crux of the matter. There has not been a single meeting between the WPA and the rest of the partners for 2 years.
But you see, Chris, and you're missing something here, you know. These people, WPA, joined the PNC and formed APNU.
We know that.
Clive Thomas didn't join the PPP and do nothing.
No, but
that's an important.
Yeah.
You are no one party went to election. They went as one single party to the
Yes.
election, right? In
Yes.
terms of APNU.
Mm.
But that didn't happen.
But you know, you're making an argument for them that they themselves have made.
But-
They've said we weren't consulted.
No.
You're saying they're now one because
No, but that don't mean they should be
I mean, you're doing a
consulted
great
in
job.
the internal dynamics of their situation. It don't mean that because I join you for electoral purposes, you mustn't consult me.
I thought that's the point you're making.
No,
Virginia.
I am saying the point I am making. The point I'm making is that the two things are totally different. The WPA was outside of the PPP. PPP won their election. Now
On their
come
own.
and offering you something. The WPA won the election. The
As part of the coalition.
part of the coalition.
But,
you know, all I'm saying to you, don't run across historical junctures and try to make these kinds of...
I am dealing with what I'm raising questions
Yeah.
about what has happened.
But Chris.
The AFC is part of this coalition.
Yeah, but Chris.
Hold on.
Yeah.
The AFC is part of this coalition, yet the APNU, the president, has treated with the AFC very differently.
There's a
Is it because
There's a
of
Commonsburg Accord.
Yes.
There's no APNU Accord.
So
in the
when you
same
went
way.
into APNU, there was no
No,
agreement?
no, it's been about the coalition.
Remember the AFC was almost forced into an accommodation with the APNU. All I'm saying
So
to
there
you,
was
Chris,
no understanding.
Yeah,
No, but
not in
it
the
doesn't have
same.
to be in the right
But
thing.
Chris, not in the same way as the
Yeah.
Commonsburg Accord.
Okay.
The Commonsburg Accord is
All
a
right.
piece of paper that was
fine.
together.
No, all I'm doing is asking the question.
right.
If you're happy, if the WP is
Nobody
happy,
is
fine.
happy.
No, but
You
Chris,
look the nice
Chris,
they're making. How can you say
Chris,
that?
if a political party, let's say we go along with you, they made a mistake, and here they're correcting that mistake. Let's focus a little bit on the correction. I mean, 2 years has passed. Whatever the reason that they were not forceful before, they're now being forceful. Where do we go from here?
Well, no, but I want to focus a little bit on Dr. Rodney. Now, this commission of inquiry has been held. Recommendations have been made. Those the report has essentially been ignored
Yes.
by the government. What's the party's position on
The
it?
party's position is that we're against it.
Against what?
We are against the way in which the government has treated with it. But we are realists to understand that the Commission of Inquiry was mired in partisan politics and that the PPP had used the commission required in a particular way. And that is why we said, as a party, we were not going to be taking part. We weren't consulted on it and so forth. They said the wife didn't want us and all of that. But we said our members will take part. The inquiry was finished, and we have to be frank that the PNC component of the government is not going to accept the findings of an inquiry put together by the opponents. The AFC, I don't think, care. They don't have an interest in the matter. As regards the findings are, we should depoliticize the police force, free and fair election, those things. I think the reading of our partners is if they accept that, then it will be a tacit acceptance of the findings of the inquiry, and they're not about to go there. And it's just again the difficult politics in this country. One would hope, it's easy. I met a young journalist from Tanzania who, she arrived from Ghana. She said, we had to read Dr. Walter Rodney's How Europe and the Developed Africa in high school. And she quoted for me long sections of the introduction of that book. You wouldn't get that in Guyana. It's easy because in Tanzania, and he was not opposing any government. He was not seen as helping to bring down a government.
So again, it was real politics that prevented Dr. Rupnarayan from trying to introduce that kind of reading when he was the Minister of Education.
I am not speaking for Dr. Rupnarayan.
No, I'm asking a question.
When he tried to introduce what
I'm asking
to introduce.
how Europe underdeveloped Africa.
Where?
In the schools in Ghana.
Okay. I mean, he tried. I don't
Did
know.
he?
I'm asking.
No, I didn't think he got to that point.
No.
He commissioned the Commission of Inquiry, and the understanding was based on the findings of the President Commission, and the findings of the Commission of Inquiry would have seen reforms of the education process. I think we have to be fair to Dr. Rupnarayan here. If there is any insinuation that he did not perform in the 2 years you're education minister, this is a former education minister. Education has been in bad shape in this country for a very long time.
You're not blaming him?
And no, and I wouldn't blame any education minister.
Particularly since he said for a long time.
Right, no, for a very long time, and it started long before the PPP came to power. Education began to slide and so forth. I think the problem here for Dr. Rupnarayan, and I would dare say this for all the other ministers, there is no consistent and cohesive vision that this government has put forward. It's a kind of piecemeal thing, a little here, a little there, and so forth. But there's not a bringing together. This is what we want to do, and this is how education, this is role education would play in what we're trying to do, and so this is what we want the education system to look like, and so on. You just don't change an education system just like that. It has to be part of something else. But Henry is the expert on this.
I have
the politics of it or the education of it?
Both.
Let me say this. I have a problem. You see how you frame your question? That sometimes I want to ask, what is it that you expect from the education system? When you say that education is in the doldrums, what is it you expect?
When who said that?
When anybody. You say that.
No, I didn't say that.
You didn't say it tonight.
No, I didn't. No, I think David is
all
saying.
right, David might. All right. But what is it you expect from the education system when you say that? Because I've got a major problem with this notion. Because, let me tell you why, so that you can format your answers. I am saying to you that any education system must operate in a socio-economic environment. You are spending $300 in 2012. You were spending $371 per child in public education. Barbados was spending $1,900 per child. Please. Now, what do you think you're supposed to get for your $371? When we say this, how do we position this? Do you know of another country that's spending $371 is better, producing better? What are these comparisons you are making? People in every country in the world, Chris, people are cussing up the education system. It don't matter where you go. From England, look, me had to drop it now because of this. You want back this school and that school. All I'm saying to you, people say this anywhere you go in the world about the education system. People always expect. Let me tell you why. Because all of it expect that every child should be educated to the best of its capacity and leave school able to make a good life for itself. In every country in the world, people want that. But certainly that got to be placed in the context of the reality of the country in which you live.
The reality of the country is also,
What?
as Dr. Hinds has said,
Yeah.
the leadership and the vision and the allocation
But-
of...
Yes.
Can I finish?
Yeah. Why should you?
Why
You're
should I finish?
the asker of questions, not going on preaching.
No.
Yes, go on. Go on.
It's a question of allocation of resources. You mentioned 2012.
Yeah.
Clearly those statistics need to be updated. We also have to look. You can't take two countries 5-7 years ago and just use statistics and say this proves this and that, because you have to look at the composition of the education, the construct of the education system, private versus public. You have to look at the allocation of resources. Is the money there? Yes or no? Have we allocated it properly? Those are some of the questions we'll have to decide when we think of allocating resources.
But Chris, I'm not arguing with that.
Okay.
But you can't blame the education system if you give them $1. You can't want $10 out of them. It's the government, it's the system giving them $1. It's different from saying the government are not giving the education system enough money to move.
That's what I'm saying.
The education system is underperforming because you're assuming that the money they're getting or the resources available, they should have been doing better with. And it's two different kind of arguments. And that's
I'm
what
not
I'm
sure
saying.
which two different kinds of
They are
arguments.
two different. If you give the education system $100, they'll produce things for $100. Now, if the government give them $1,000, they produce things for $1,000. This education system is getting about $400, $500 no, and that's what they're going to
Well,
produce.
you're saying now when you were talking about 2012.
No, you're missing. You are being.
No, you said
being too
it-
finicky about the numbers because here what I give you, I could only give you a number that I had two dates, both countries that I wanted to deal with, Barbados and this,
Okay.
right? So I give you that, but it's not more than about $500, and Barbados must be gone now for about 2005. What I am saying to you is that you can blame the government for not. You know what is government spending now on education in Guyana since the rebase, and you know all about that. It's about 3.1% of GDP. Well, that again was 24.
But GDP is not a useful measure.
But it's of GDP.
GDP takes account. No. Let's get this
Wait.
clear.
Let me finish. You know what?
So you can't
Barbados-
even David Hinds.
No, I'm prepared to sit up some
you know what Barbados and East is GDP I'm dealing with? 6% of GDP. What I am saying to you, it is a measure. If you got a better measure, put it forward. But don't tell me don't dismiss the GDP.
No, you can't just come and pull figures like
I am
these.
not pulling figures. I'm
GDP,
you
for
can
example,
check
let me
them.
tell you, Dr. Henry, GDP figures include what Goldfields has produced and exported,
Yeah.
what Rusal
Okay.
has produced, what Bosai.
Okay.
The numbers are, you have to
But
take
that's why I give you-
figures in their context.
That's why I give you two. I give you both the GDP and I give you the actual number.
But-
I am telling you the actual number is 371 or something.
the question then
I
is-
give you both.
The
I
question
don't
is,
give you GDP
the
alone.
question then is, what doctor, you're saying that we've been underperforming in education for a long time.
Yeah.
Dr. Jeffery is saying, look, it's because we haven't been allocating resources.
No, Henry Jeffery isn't saying that. What Henry Jeffery is saying, first of all, is let us understand what we mean by underperforming. Underperforming can mean that the education system is not doing well because they don't have resources, or it can mean that education system are being given resources and they're not using it properly. So underperforming can mean two things. Which one is it that we are talking
Yeah, well,
about?
that's what we're asking.
No.
As a former Minister of Education, what do you think it is?
Let me put this way. I think that with the money you're giving the education system, they're doing quite well.
Okay.
Right?
You accept that?
Wait,
Dr. Hinds?
No.
I can't argue against that.
Or if anybody can argue, you go find data and put it there. I have no problem. I don't have to live it. I'm thinking the education system is doing quite well with the resources at their disposal. I'm saying, though, that the government has got to make some decision of how much money they want to put in the education system. I can understand all the rebasing and all the cost trouble in 2006, but as I told you, the GDP, if it's affecting here all those things, it's affecting other countries. Wait.
Economy.
All right, but I give you
different.
both. That's why I give you both numbers, Chris. I give you numbers. Barbados must be spending now about 2.5. 2005, you are spending about $400. The public schools spend $1,000 a year.
So we are saying.
So
let's
the
hear-
private schools, sorry, and that's why when you say the private schools are doing better, they are doing better.
Who
because
said that?
Well, most, I think so.
Yeah, but no,
I think
because
it's a fact.
you're using words you and you.
No.
I think we should be clear
I think
on those
it's
things.
true. I think it's true. We say that then. I should say we, because I did have some of the analysis, and they are with the same children, but they got better resources, and what they have better than everybody else is motivated school leadership.
That's right.
Motivated school leadership.
Again, we go back to Dr. Rodney.
Yeah.
And his idea of education, where would it be? Would it be in terms of progressive thinking? He himself was a Marxist.
Among other things.
Among other things, he was liberation and all that. What was his concept of education in terms of the people for whom he was fighting?
But generally, his concept was about how education can be used to lift the working class, to lift those at the social bottom. That is what he was concerned about. He was a prime example, and he always said that. I was a prime example. The government opened up scholarships in 1953. For the first time that working class people like Walter Rodney could go to these elite schools like Queen's College and so on, and that was the jump start for him. And so when he talked about education, he always talked about education within the larger context of the development of the society. And that's why I'm saying that, yes, under Burnham in the early years, we had a clear sense. You may not agreed with him, but he talked about education from nursery to university and what that could do in terms of lifting the society. And in some sense, when we look at some of those people, the lawyers and the doctors and so on today, they came out of that system. A lot of them came out of that system. But I think 50 years on, 40 years on, we need to rethink, bring our education, thinking about education and its role up to speed with the challenges that we face today. And I think that's where we're falling down, in the sense that I think there is less and less tolerance at the level of governance for thinking, for thought. I think there's a kind of technocratic approach that we bring to governance, and we don't really think about it in an organic way. And education is so essential to societies like ours. We don't have space for people to get into business and all those kinds of things and so forth in a mass way. So education is still seen as the way in lifting poor people and so forth. And there needs to be new thinking that goes into that. And I think if you have a new thinking, then the whole question of allocation of resources fall into place, right? Because if you go back, I mean, and in the early years, in the 1970s and so forth, and you look at the resources that the government of that time put in education, you can see a distinct effort to link expenditure on education with the thinking about education, and that's what I think we're lacking now.
What was this commission of inquiry supposed to bring about? Have brought
Well,
about, sorry.
All right, let me back up here a little bit. The Ministry of Education, starting with the old PNC, must be one of the few ministries in this country that has a strategic plan every single 5 years. It starts with, since Bernard, Derrick time. You have a strategic plan. During that strategic plan period, they hold meetings all over there. The last one I was associated with ended in, I think it was 2007 to 11, or something like that. But, no, it was 3 to 7. They had over 30 meetings and
This is for each plan.
for each plan. Every time they go out there, every time you got to do a plan, you can't do a strategic plan by sitting at home and you write it up. And they've been doing this point on point. The Ministry of Education in 2004 decided to have an new education act. It was paid for by the IDB. Mass consultations in 2004. I was there. Vincent Alexander was on the committee doing this mass consultation around the world, around Guyana, doing for the education. When I left in 2006, I sent to the IBA for a report. You just have to report every year. But I sent a report saying the plan, the act is 40% completed. I left in 2006. To this day, where is the act? Now I'm hearing, I read in the papers today, Priya came up years, 40%. When Sheikh Bak left, I went back and checked this. He says it is 70% completed.
My question was about the commission of
No,
inquiry.
but I'm saying to you, I want to delay you. You can't come to the commission.
Well, we do have, we do have a limit on time.
You have a limit on time? Okay.
I'm just saving David, man.
Yeah, all right. So I want to give you a backdrop to all these consultations that went around the ministry for all these years and always go around. So all I'm saying to you, this consultation was an effort to collect data, to try to come up with an holistic process that will move education forward. And that process should have told you all the things, all the important things you might have missed in all of these consultations that we have had, and allow you to develop a plan for you to move education forward. Now, okay.
Did you make a submission to that commission of inquiry?
No.
Why not?
Why not?
You're a minister of education, former minister of education. Surely you have
My views are all, listen, I'm writing in press, and I must be right. In terms of education, I'm certain I write 6,000 words. I mean, people know what I think about all these issues, most of these issues.
But the commission of inquiry has specific terms
well,
of reference.
Yeah.
And so you would address your terms of reference.
But I'm not, I am not want to go forcing myself on anything. I was Minister of Education. If somebody want me to tell them, I go tell them. But I am not going to try to go force my way on that.
Did the WPA appear before the commission of inquiry?
No.
Why do you think
We
they
weren't
didn't?
asked.
But this was a public commission of
We
inquiry.
weren't, but you again,
The
you're
institutions, you got to, because they're public, you think it.
So
What to the trade unions? What after this inquiry in the trade unions?
Well, if we're going to take that position, as you say, we weren't asked, then everybody's going to say we weren't asked.
Well,
And that would be, if that's a legitimate ground for one, it's
it's a
certainly
legit.
good
But
other.
come on, you see, this is this.
All right,
This
you
is,
haven't done it. You haven't done
No,
it because
right.
you weren't asked to do it.
Right.
The report has been submitted.
Yes.
Where is it? What does the WPA, for example,
The
know
president has the report.
What? And the newspapers apparently know.
Right. And he says the removal of Dr. Rupnarayan, he said that in the media was prompted by this report which he received at the beginning of the month. And they've decided, in addition to removing Dr. Rupnarayan, is to set up this new entity under the office of the presidency, which is to deal with innovation and so on. And policy. I would cautiously say it's a move in the right direction. I don't know whether it belongs in the office of the president, but certainly there is need for some thinking somewhere to think the thing through, as we're saying. Right? If that is what that new department is for, I am for it. But I'm not sure. Right? It would have to be fleshed out. We have not studied in the WPA, we have not studied the report yet. We have just gotten a copy of it.
Are you going to make it public?
The copy of
Party? Yes.
Well, that's a matter for the government.
No, would the WPA make it available to its members?
To make the report?
Yes.
Yes, available to its members.
You will get one then.
That's what you're asking?
No, sir.
You make it,
No. I'm here.
Have you paid your dues recently?
What did you?
You can't get no report if you pay your dues.
Oh, that's how it works.
Yeah, if you paid your party dues, your membership dues, you will get to see the report.
The party hasn't studied it as yet.
No. We hopefully we'll be able to activate a small education committee to study it, and then we'll obviously make public what we think about it.
Should it have been tabled in the National Assembly? Dr. Jeffery.
Should it be tabled? Because it's a draft report.
Yes.
And
yes.
Why not? You can table it, you can debate it, but certainly table it.
We talked about, Rodney, we talked about some of the issues, consultations. To my horror, I learned today that the Human Rights Commission, which is intended to give effect to the 6 covenants that we have, UNESCO, etc., that we have signed. Because if there's a violation of any of those against any citizen, you take that complaint to the Human Rights Commission. What's your view on that? That the PPP, because this was part of the 2000 amendment to the Constitution. Are we just playing games with some of these commissions?
But we've been playing games with them commissions for the longest while.
So we should continue?
Chris, not even the parties would say they should continue. So why
No.
you? I mean, of course you shouldn't continue.
So,
It's a
but we are
constitutional
continuing.
requirement,
We are
but
continuing.
yes.
But Chris.
Were you aware of that?
Huh?
That is
No,
never.
No.
But it's never been there. So
It's in the Constitution.
I know. But he's quarreling today. David was quarreling about the
David don't
local
quarrel. David don't
government-
quarrel.
About the local government
He's quarreling?
commission. What about the local government commission?
He made a
The people
state-
went-
he made a statement.
All
He
right,
didn't quarrel.
that's right. Well, he should quarrel.
Yeah. But Chris, I mean, look, we've had a new government. There was the customary euphoria. Because remember the first one was 28 years. Then this one is 23 years. And we have to give people some space to appreciate the change that has taken place and let it sink in, you know? And I think what we have to reactivate in this society is the citizen participation in critiquing and being an oversight of governance. The thing about this deep partisan thing, is that it reduces the space for dispassionate critique. It is not that supporters of this government are not disappointed with the government. They are. All right? But I think after 2 years, they're now waking up to the view that this thing in the long term could be bad for us. And sometimes I think we have to, unfortunately, right, allow these things to work themselves out. Hopefully we are entering a new period in which citizen activism will again take prominence. We have activism among citizens, but they're single issue things, you know, and there's a demarcation. People doing parking meter, not doing human rights, those who doing human rights not doing women's rights, and those who doing women's rights not doing LBGT rights, and so on and so forth. What Rodney was able to do when he came back here in 1974, and it was about him, but it was also about the work that was done before he got here, right, by ASCRE and IPRA and Ratoon and Mao and so forth.
At University of Ghana.
Right. And when he got here, he was able to bring all of that together. We give him, Rodney, a lot of credit for inspiring the multiracial thing. What he doesn't get a lot of credit for was to really bring in a kind of class alliance, the citizens committee and the professional people and so on, were all part, by the time he got to 1979, they were all part of this large anti-authoritarian movement. And I think history is beckoning again for us to get to that point. And it will take activism, it will take some groups taking a bold stand. As I've said before, the WPA back then were not in government. Now they're in government, and so the burden is on the WPA to, in a sense, the political party, right, the political party to lead that kind of charge. But it's also part of government, and it has to work that out. You know, I think we are moving in that direction.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you got to give people space, but in giving that space, you must make the issue drop off the table.
Right.
Because this can happen easily when you get caught up in just giving space. The issue is not going to be. You raise an important issue about this commission, but yeah, look, as I said, David was complaining about the local government commission, and people in this administration went on the streets quarreling about that. They didn't go on the streets quarreling about no human rights, but they were in the streets quarreling about the local government commission.
Is there a kind of double standard when people in government towards not when they see the reality of the budget and so on, but just their attitude to democracy and their attitude to civil society and to independent thought?
I think so. I really do think so. I think that once people taste power, especially when they taste power in a bifurcated society like this, the attitude to these things change. You know, Henry once wrote, I think Freddie took him to task for that these people are not willful in terms of the infractions, that, you know, the circumstances and so on, and he advanced that theory and so on. Freddie disagreed with that theory. But I think there is something to be said about both views. I appreciate the fact that when you get power in your hand, especially for people, because let's be frank, the coalition did not expect that they were going to win. And I don't think they planned really about what we were going to. I mean, they had the discussions and so forth. So they're learning the job, on the job. And
sounds like Paul Ryan of Donald Trump. Dr. David Hinds, Dr. Henry Jeffery, thank you very much for appearing on Plain Talk. It was a very animated discussion. I hope we can continue some other time. Operators and viewers, thank you. Good night. See you next week.
Good at 20, better at 21. Boxer's Variety Store offers you more for the 21st anniversary in the Golden Jubilee year. Enjoy 50% discount